Turning to tour this week, but Bryson DeChambeau is not, following a very eventful memorial. Spectators kicked out for taunting DeChambeau, calling him Brooksy, and Brooks applauding and encouraging that heckling from home on his off week. That rivalry between two of golf's best intensifying. Over the weekend, DeChambeau saying of the fans, quote, "I think that's something that the tour needs to handle. It's something I can't control. I tried to take the high road numerous times, and I think that from my perspective, I'll continue to keep doing so, and people are going to do what they want to do," end quote. Let's bring in Michael Breed, host of Course Record with Michael Breed on CBS Sports Network. Michael, how do you think the tour should handle this?
Well, I agree with Bryson here. I think it is the tour's responsibility. And I think, you know, if you look at this, Chris, from a standpoint of would you see this at Augusta National, who clearly the Masters it's run by Augusta National. Would you see it there? No, you wouldn't see it there. And I think the governing body has to take responsibility for what's going on. And if you're Bryson DeChambeau, is your responsibility when you go to a tournament to monitor the individuals that are there and their behavior? It's not Bryson who should be kicking people out of the event. Now, at the same time, there's a mindset that takes place, in my opinion, that the spectator, and I'm not going to call them fans, I'm calling them spectators, the spectators that show up, it almost seems like, hey, I've got a cell phone and I paid my $20. I should be able to do whatever I want to do. I just don't think that that's necessarily what we believe is the right way to behave. I'm not a fan of Baba Booey. I'm not a fan of mashed potatoes. I'm not a fan of heckling players when they come out there. I'm a fan of watching the very best players play their very best. And if you don't like Bryson DeChambeau, don't follow him. No big deal. If you don't like Brooks, don't follow him. Go follow somebody that you like to watch. Go to the range and watch them hit balls. But don't go out there with the intent of harassing somebody. I just don't think that's right. And I don't think that's what spectating at a PGA Tour event, an LPGA Tour event, any professional golf event is about. And I think that it has to stop. And I'm inclined to agree with Bryson. I think the PGA Tour has to step in here.
But Michael, how does the tour enforce that? Because I know that some fans feel like because, you know, in other sports, in the NBA, you can do stuff like that. You know, you can say things like that if you're in the crowd at a football game. And we've seen over the years, these golf fans, these spectators, they yell the mashed potatoes. Where do you draw the line between things you can and can't say as a spectator?
It's a wonderful question. And I'll go to this spot here, Chris. I don't think spectating for golf is the same as spectating for football or baseball or basketball or hockey or anything, because there's teams that are playing and they're playing home games. So the you go to a football game, there's cheerleaders that are cheering the fans on. There's a PA announcer who's saying, "Come on, make some noise, defense, defense." And the responsibility of the quote unquote sixth man or 12th man is to make noise to distract the opposing team. That is not the way golf is. Golf is not about defense. There are no home games in a PGA Tour event, in a golf event. And I don't think spectating can be the same thing. Now, how do they go about doing that? I don't know. I think there's a way to say something along the lines of behavior that's unbecoming. I don't know what it is. There are people that are far smarter than I am, but I think that when you have Justin Thomas throwing somebody out and Ian Poulter throwing somebody out and Bryson DeChambeau getting people kicked out, I think when Brooks goes on and gives away 50 cases of beer to the first 50 people that are kicked out, I mean, that statement in and of itself is a statement of a problem. If it's one or two, okay. If it's 50, now you got a problem. Now, what is it? I don't know, but I'm sure the tour is looking at it and will do the right thing.
No DeChambeau this week as he gets set to defend his U.S. Open title next week, but Brooks is returning after 2 weeks off following that runner-up finish at the PGA, the event that Phil Mickelson won. This week it's the Palmetto Championship in South Carolina, and for Brooks, it's kind of been all or nothing for him since the start of the season and that knee surgery that he had. But after what we saw at the PGA, do you feel like he's all the way back?
I don't know that he's all the way back, but I would say he's better. And I think every week that goes by for Brooks, he gets better and better. And I will tell you, the thing that I think that is Brooks' best friend is he needs to have a chip on his shoulder. In order for him to play his best golf, he needs to be upset about something. And I think he's got that story. And so when you look at Brooks, I think the health is much, much better. And I think his second place finish at the PGA shows that he was even better coming into that. And I think he's even better coming out of that. So when I look at Brooks, I think that I don't know that we're at 100%, but I think we're somewhere sort of between 90 and 100. And I think at a golf course like this that isn't really a tough walk, like Augusta National was a tough walk, I don't believe Congaree is going to be the walk that Augusta National is. And I think that's favorable for Brooks as well. So I think leading into a U.S. Open, which is, he will typically play the week before a U.S. Open. I think this is a very favorable week for Brooks.
We'll talk more about the golf course at Congaree in just a second, but also want to get to world number 1, Dustin Johnson, who's returning to the field this week. He's the number 1 player in the world. He's going to be the betting favorite, but no top 5s since he won the Masters last November. Is this a good tournament for him and a good field to kind of get a good result heading into another major at the U.S. Open next week?
I think anytime Dustin is out there playing before a major, I think it's a good event for him to be in. I think it helps focus him. And I think Dustin is at a point now where he really is focusing on winning major championships. He now has 2. And, I think speaking of Brooks, I think he wants to get to a point where he's 4, 5, or 6 majors. And I think that if you look at DJ heading out to Torrey, I think that's a golf course that he can do well at. I think he can win. But a lot depends on his interest level, which I think will be peaked this week and certainly next. And I also think it's about his body. And he led us into, hey, you know what? The knee is still a little bit of an issue for me. I'll be curious to see how it responds this week. But frankly, this has been a very, very different year for DJ. And it has been sort of an all or nothing. He's missed a lot of cuts, as you can see there. And also when he has made the cut, he hasn't really had great performances. And I think in large part because the knee has not been where it is. And I think also in large part because of the putting. And so the question is going to be, to me, how is he physically and how is his putting stroke? And if those two things are say in that, like Brooks, in the 90 to 100% range, then I think we're going to see a DJ really vie for the title this week and give himself a lot of confidence heading into the U.S. Open next.
This week is Congaree in southern South Carolina outside Ridgeland, a course that isn't on the regular schedule, but this is the replacement tournament for the RBC Canadian Open due to COVID issues and traveling across the border. What kind of course are we going to be seeing this week?
I think you're going to see a golf course that's very similar to what we saw at the PGA. It's got a lot of runoff areas. The wind isn't going to be quite as intense as what we saw at Kiowa. But I think what you're going to see is a golf course that's kind of it's got some trees, but it's got a lot of runoff areas. There's a great picture right there. And so I think it's going to play somewhat similar to a European style golf course as well. It's going to be a golf course that doesn't have a lot of rough, so you got to drive it pretty well, not great, pretty well. I think you're going to be able to control the golf ball in the air with your irons, and I think when you miss greens, you're going to have a lot of options around the green, just like you had at Kiowa. So I think that this is going to favor a number of different styles of players. As well, at a par 71 and 7,600, it's fast. It's going to play shorter than the distance would indicate. We look at 7,600, par 71, and we think, man, this is a golf course that's going to favor a long hitter. And obviously, golf courses that are long are going to favor long hitters. But this is one of those where you're going to see a lot of players be sneaky long, where they'll hit the ball and they'll get a lot of yards on the ground. And I think that the golf course is not going to play its normal 7,600 at a par 71 because it'll be so fast.
So you got Dustin Johnson in the field. You have Brooks Koepka. You've got world number 10, Tyrrell Hatton. But what about a long shot look for this weekend?
I love Ian Poulter this week for a variety of reasons. One, I think he's playing much better golf. He was working on his golf swing, trying to get the club a little bit more underneath and trying to draw the ball a little bit more. His recent play has been fantastic. He finished tied third at 30th at the PGA Championship, but he was really part of the story there for a little bit of time. He had a poor finish in his third round there, and he ends up tied 30th. He also finished tied third at the Charles Schwab Cup. So things are getting a lot better, and he played great on Sunday at the Schwab. But what I think about Poulter is the ball striking has gotten a lot better. He's putting fantastic, 7th on tour in strokes gained putting, and around the green where you have a lot of options here at Congaree, he's 21st in strokes gained around the green. So when I look at Ian Poulter, he's a guy who's playing well. This will be a style of golf course that he's quite comfortable with, and I think he's going to have a very good week.
35-1 to win it, has not won a tournament since the 2018 season. How about your pick to win it, Michael?
Well, I'm going to go back to Brooks Koepka. I just think that this is a guy who he has that chip on his shoulder. And when Brooks plays with a chip on his shoulder, he just plays a whole lot better. I think that what we saw at the PGA Championship is this is a guy who has he fixed his putting. He really has fixed his putting, and we saw him putt much better, and I think he will putt much better. I think the knee is not a problem at all, and he's going to have control over his ball flight. So when I look at Brooks and also to this field, I think this is one of those things where he goes, I should win this event. I'm going to win this event. And he's a little bit angry. He's a little bit upset with all the stuff that's going on with Bryson. I think he's going to be, I think he's walking away with the victory here.
Koepka at 9-1, just behind Dustin Johnson, the favorite, world #1 at 8-1. And the sleeper pick is Ian Poulter at 35-1 from Michael Breed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris.
Michael can be seen on CBS Sports Network. Course Record with Michael Breed, the great golf instructor, Monday nights on CBS Sports.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.